Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Adult Learner Lounge. It is me, Shannon. I'm looking a little bit beat down today. Actually, I'm looking very haggish, but I'm here. Welcome. I hope you're doing okay. So, if you're joining me for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by. Here at the Adult Learner Lounge, I'm talking all things adult, basically meaning really like anyone that's about 30 years or older. Not that you can't be in your 20s and an adult, but this channel and everything that I'm doing here is about the marriage of 30 something year olds and older and post secondary education, right? Higher ed of all stripes, academic, scholarly, college, university, um, career, technical, trade, vocational, right? Doesn't matter. If you are an older individual and you have been really thinking about continuing your education or starting for the first time, even if you've never graduated from high school, right? And just really want help with making sense of it all, really want help, with getting through it all, then I am the person for you. And this channel is all about that, right? So that's all I talk about. That's all I want to talk about right here. All things post-secondary education, all things adults within post-secondary education. So you're in the right place. And if you are returning, hi, welcome friend, welcome back. Yeah. So what I've noticed so far is that YouTube is finding my videos. The algorithm is kind of like finding me and I guess testing me out. So some of my videos will get recommended, I guess, and I've had some interaction. I've had a couple of people subscribe. I'm excited about that. It's happening, right? Then other videos will do nothing. But I understand that it could be. Let me take my seatbelt off. I'm parked here. I'm at a very lovely park, but I parked my car just so I can kind of focus on this because I don't really want to have to fight traffic and this camera. Anyway, so yeah, so I've noticed that, my videos have been getting a little bit of traction and I'm glad about that. So instead of me like, having a meltdown because, one video had views and the next video had none, I'm just like, let me just keep working, right? Let me work on my little plot of land here in YouTube Landia because I know eventually it will pay off. So I'm here doing the thing because it's not about the views for me. It's really just about building the community, right? Building the community, making the connection with you, helping, right? I am not a nice person, nice, air quote, nice. I think that I am definitely more of a thoughtful person, meaning that, what I do, I'm thinking about you as the whole person, right? Holistically, the individual. To me, anybody could be nice, right? You could nice is like performative. So I'm not a nice person, but I am a thoughtful person and I love to help, right? I'm wired that way. Not that I get like a thrill or a kick out of it, but it's something. It's not the helping. Sometimes I don't feel like doing that shit, but it's more like when people have what they need, I feel like they're better. And as many people that could be better because they have the things that they need, want, require, right? It keeps them from being, not better, right? And then maybe spilling all of that out onto the rest of us. So I feel like if I could do my part to help you or help people just have what they need and feel better and be better, then yeah, right. That's what I'm here for. And I'm made for it basically. So yeah. Anyway, so let me continue on. So I am continuing on with my ongoing saga, right? I say ongoing, but it definitely has an ending. So I'm sharing with you the story, my story of how as a 30 something year old I went back to school and actually finished that time not one program but several degree programs, right? Once I had the sauce and I knew what to do, I just kept applying it over and over again until I was like, I'm done. That's it. So I'm going to share that with you now in the hopes that it resonates with you, in the hopes that you'll hear something of it that, may compel you or inspire you, or at least to like think about it, if nothing more, to reach out to me. Speaking of reaching out, if you have not already done so, please, I'm trying to grow this channel, so I have to ask, right? Once I get to the point where I feel comfortable, right, with or whether YouTube feels comfortable with me as well, and I feel comfortable, with YouTube and everything, I'm going to stop asking, okay? Because I know we all know what to do here in YouTube Landia. But for now, since I am trying my best to grow this channel and this community and my business, because this is also my business, I will ask you to take a moment to like, subscribe, all right? Hit the notification bell so you'll know when the videos are coming, because like I said, the algorithm may not recommend this again, right? It's no telling when it'll come back my way. So I'm like, okay, I just want to be ready whenever it does, right? What they say, what's the saying, right? If you stay ready, then you'll be ready, right? Something like that. Anyway, so I'm going to jump in with part 4 of the story. Actually, parts 4 and 5. I just thought about it. I don't want to have my videos be so long that I'm holding you hostage with my conversation. Instead, I'm going to shoot parts 4 and 5 here. I'll just stop, in between, and there you have it. All right. So for this part 4, usually I start the video off by telling we're here at the Adult Learner Lounge, right? It's a lounge. Theoretically, it's a lounge, and I'm always sharing with you what I'm drinking and what I'm listening to, right? And then I want to hear hear about what you're drinking, right? So leave me a comment. And if you're eating anything good, you can leave me a comment like, hey, I've got a glass of sangria and a plate of hot wings. And great, right? So let me know what you are sipping on and maybe like noshing on in the comments, all right? I'm not eating anything. I'm being a straight alcoholic right now because I'm telling my story, right? So I am sipping on just a glass of Riesling. I'm not being a real alcoholic, right? Because I'm gonna have some Riesling. Like, oh my God, that's so milk toast. But I love Riesling. I really do. So I'm sipping on a glass of Riesling, and I am listening to because this is what's playing in the lounge, this ambient music. We are listening to Mr. Fingers, Can You Feel It? Right? Born and raised in Chicago, although I'm in the outskirts now, but born and raised in Chicago. I am a house head through and through, right? There are those that are practicing house heads. I'm not a practicing house head, and it means I don't go out to the events, the big picnic they have. They have a new picnic here in downtown Chicago. That's people have gone, told me they did a really good job with it. House music is worldwide, right? But and I've ran into New Yorkers who will say, well, originally, like Frankie Knuckles, he was in New York first, and it's like, okay, but he came to Chicago and he bequeathed us, right, house music. Now, don't get me twisted. I love Larry Levin, who is a New Yorker, prominent at the Garage, right, nightclub in New York, where house music, the seeds were planted, right. But at the same time, right, yeah, house music is very much a Chicago creation, and we love it, right? And I know our version of house music could be different than the world's version of house music, although I've heard some really good house music of late. So yes, we are listening to Can You Feel It, Mr. Fingers, awesome track. Somebody was telling me that it's actually on like one of the Grand Theft Auto, like GTA. I don't know the areas. Like, I don't know let me try to see if I can fix this camera. I don't know the areas or the towns, like the cities or whatever. Okay, if this is crooked, I apologize, but I'm trying to. All right, that might just be where I started, but I'm gonna leave it there. Anyway, so I don't know which area, which city, which town, or even what version, if it's 4 or 5. But someone was telling me like, oh, that they on the station, they have many different stations, right? And so on one station they played it, and so I guess a lot of people are finding it of late, like more recently, through Grand Theft Auto, which I think is fucking amazing, because that's like here it's a house. Well, it's a classic house song because it's more like a track, right? Like an original production. It's not like a remix of anything, and it just puts you in a mood, right? If you indulge, right, in 420 behaviors and cultures, then it'll put you in a mood. If you indulge in other things, it didn't put you in the mood. Like, you could be sipping and it puts you in the mood. It's a fucking phenomenal song. That's it. So I will link to Can You Feel It, Mr. Fingers, in the description. Okay? Okay, I'm having an OCD moment. All right, so let me go ahead and jump in, because I said I was going to make 2 videos. I can't even get to the first one, right? Anyway, so where do we leave off? The last, part 4, no, I'm sorry, part 3. Part 3, I was telling you all about how my time at the University of Phoenix was coming to an end. And it had to, because things were about to get real fast, right? I had taken classes here and there. I was loving the online format. But it was, you know, costly, and it was only going to get costlier, right? More pricey or pricier, because I basically, because I was taking like a class here and there, you know, like a student at large type of thing, where you're not really committed or enrolled in a particular course of study, meaning that you're not like in a degree program or something like that, or in a particular discipline. But the time was coming where I really had to commit, right? Otherwise, I was going to run into problems just continuing on, you know, taking classes here and there. And that commitment, well, like I said, was going to cost like real cheddar, right? That I just really didn't have. There was a tuition assistance, right? Like it was some type of financial aid, but it really did not cover as much as I needed it to. So it was like, And so also what had happened, like I said, I learned more about the University of Phoenix model. Had an incident in the class, the last class that one of the last classes that I took, where they, at the time, they were employing a group learning model, where basically, you know, you group students together and assign work, paper, project, oral presentation, whatever it is. And your grade, your final grade is determined upon your group members, right? So if everybody's great, you get a great grade. If everybody sucks, you get a sucky grade, that kind of thing, right? If half of you are great or half of you are sucky, then your grade is kind of like averaged out, right? So I don't like the group model. And then at that time, one of my group mates, like basically was just like, she had a bad experience. We had a bad experience collectively in the class, but that was enough for her right there, where she was like, I'm out of this piece. You know, I'm out of this. Y'all can kiss my motherfucking ass. I'm out. And she left. So that brings me to here. I'm bringing the story forward, right? So once I found out about that group model and that it was the standard, like it was employed throughout pretty much every program at that time at the University of Phoenix, I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm not going to jeopardize anything with this, right? And so, whereas my classmate at the time and group mate, she had a plan to transfer to her local community college and finish there. She needed this degree, this associate's degree she was working towards, for work, right? She needed not for a position that she wanted, but to actually, like, I think for her, she was trying to maintain the position that she had, right? And that's something we'll talk about in another video in the future, because I've talked about it a little bit in a previous video. I will link to it so you'll know what I'm talking about, or you can see that video for yourself. But we'll talk more about that also in the future. But anyway, so at that time, I took a leave from the University of Phoenix, but there were other things that were happening that at that moment, right, I felt they were unrelated, right? Only to realize after the fact, like, oh wow, right? Like God and the universe was conspiring against me for good, because these separate incidents were actually very much related, right? So I took that leave just to kind of like, figure out what my next move was. Like I said, I did check my local community colleges, and nobody was really offering that many online courses. Not enough for a whole program at all. Barely enough, just for regular courses, but for sure not a whole program, right? So I'm like, okay. So I felt like I was very limited, right? Like I had no good options. Well, I had good options, but not good and best, I should say. I didn't have a lot of better or best options, right? So anyway, something else that was happening during that time for me too was the fact that I kept like thinking and dreaming of other places, other things, right? I was a single woman in my 30s, like I said, no children to speak of, kind of bouncing around from job to job, right? Always working, but just never really satisfied. Like I said, the school thing shocked the shit out of me. The online learning environment really agreed with me, and I wanted more. But usually, like I said, when I have that feeling of like defeat, like that's the beginning and end of it. I'm like, ugh, that's it, right? I'm done. But this time it was different. Like I think what I was starting to understand was more about like the realm of possibility, right? Like, and again, when I say this, what I was starting to understand for myself as a 30-something-year-old, like I was maturing, I was changing, right? My 20-something-year-old self, somebody said, "Oh, well, you know what? There's no online classes here." It's just like, okay, that's it. Well, there goes that, and that's it. I'm done, right? That would be the end of, But by a decade later, like in my 30s, I'm like, nah, it's got to be something. And thankfully, my mindset was moving towards that. That's what actually, like I said, I took a not really to me a big risk by enrolling in the online classes to begin with, because my mind was understanding like it's got to be something, right? Like, don't give me that bullshit. Um, Never wanting to get my hopes up, because I didn't want my hopes to be dashed to bits. But at the same time, sometimes when something is like undeniable and it's like staring you right in the face, or even when you're not clear, but you know that something is there, like it's something, right? You kind of like, to me, owe it to yourself to kind of like, suss it out. Like, okay, well, I know something is there. Let me figure it out, right? Yeah, sometimes it can come and bite you in the ass, right? Like bad horror movies, but I think more often than not, you are rewarded for your efforts and for your actions with something, right? A good outcome, a positive outcome, or a positive outlook. So with that in mind, I had been thinking about that, just like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm kind of like chugging along. This online learning thing is really, like I said, agreeing with me. What else? What else? Right? And then one day, and I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. I don't give a shit if you believe me or not, right? I'll just let you know I'm just sharing my story honestly and truthfully, right? One day I was minding my own business and I literally heard like a voice in my head, right? And if it was a crazy voice in my head, then goddamn it was crazy. I don't give a shit. Sometimes, right? I think the crazy voice tells us the absolute truth, or it whispers to us like things like, oh, okay, right? Good shit sometimes too, right? It's not always like, murder, murder, kill, kill, right? Like sometimes it's just like, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, okay, who said that? Okay, I won't do it. So I heard the voice in my head say, you know what, you should move out of the state, right? And I like stopped. I paused everything. I forgot what I was doing, but whatever it was, I stopped, and I'm like, "Ooh, who said that?" Right? And I'm like, "Ooh, that's a good idea," right? Like, because I never really thought about that before, right? It's like, well, okay, like maybe like move now. To be clear, I spend a lot of time moving from place to place. I'm one of those type of people that enjoys moving, right? Like the actual act of moving into a new place, right? Getting your supplies, cleaning and decorating and everything. That shit, like even to this day, it's like wow. It does something to me. It makes me it makes my spirit happy, right? So I spent a lot of time bouncing around, right? I really did. Like just also not from job to job, but from apartment to apartment, and things like that, right? So, but never at any point thinking I should or could move someplace else. I had family members who had moved away, right? So I knew that it's possible. Like I said, I just had this conversation with a dear relative of mine, where I had to thank them for being one of like the few of us who actually went and moved and lived a whole life someplace else, because that allowed us to know what was possible and that we also can do it, whether we did it or not, right? So, once I was like, sold on the idea, and it didn't take much to sell me, but once I was like sold on the idea of living someplace else, like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Then, of course, the very next question was, like, okay, but where? Where would I live, right? So I, sat down and I was very, very like methodical and systematic about it, right? I wrote down like a list of possible candidates, for other places to live, and very quickly, I definitely was able to exclude some places, right? So I'm in the Chicagoland area. It's not the biggest city, but it's big enough, right? Um, so did I want to go to a bigger city? No. So that kind of like, took out or excluded New York and LA. No coastal living for me, right? Um, so that left, the southeast, the southwest, and the north, central, and then the rest of the Midwest. Now I'm already a Midwesterner. Um, So no, right? I didn't want to okay, all about inclement weather, snow, right? Seasons, all about that shit. So if you're gonna live someplace else, like why don't you try another climate on for size and see how you like that? So I pretty much excluded every other place in the Midwest and definitely any place up north, right? So that was that. Then I was left with really the Southeast and the Southwest, right? And when I thought about like the South and the Southeast, I'm like, no, like I really didn't see myself going down south. Um, Great place to visit, but just I felt like it would just be not, especially 20 something years ago. I'm like, I don't think I want to be down south, right? So that pretty much left the South West, right? Texas and other states. And I traveled a few places. So I've been to Texas before by then, and I had been a couple other places. Long story short, I settled on 2 states. It was either Arizona or Colorado. I figured I would try Denver or I would try the Phoenix area, right? Or Phoenix. But I couldn't decide, right? All the research I could do online, everything. I asked people that I knew, people that I work with. I was working for a transportation and logistics company at the time, so I was able to actually like talk to like some of the drivers and things like, hey, if you ever had to run, to run up to Denver, have you ever had to do a run like out to Phoenix? And for the ones who knew the area, like, oh man, and I'm like explaining, right? But I got a lot of good advice, right? Now, one of the pieces of advice that I got from one of my coworkers at the time, it was an older woman that I work with. And I never even thought about that, but that's, you talk to your elders, they know shit, right? But she was like, I told her what my I was deciding between these 2 places. And she's like, well, I think you do okay in both of those. She said, but here's the thing you want to remember. Phoenix is a state capital. I said, yeah, that's true, it is. She's like, and usually things are better in the state capital than it is in the rest of the state. You'll have more job opportunities, it's more stable, financially, blah, 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 blah. And I had never thought about that. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what? That's a good point, right? And she's like, yeah. So just think about it, right? But she said, her opinion was like, I feel like you'll be fine either way. So since I still could not put my finger on it, but I knew that it was going to be one of those 2, I decided one day I was going to be like completely and totally like strategic and, like I said, systematic about it. And I whipped out a quarter, and it was the best 2 out of 3, heads or tails, right? I was going to flip for it. Very scientific, right? Probability, laws of probability. I could not remember which was which. I just remember that I was flipping for the best 2 out of 3. Whatever it was, it came up each time I flipped. One of the 3 times that I flipped, whatever side it was, it came up for Phoenix, right? Each time, Phoenix, Phoenix, Phoenix. And that's where I ended up moving to Phoenix. I made a decision. I'm like, that's it. I'm going to Phoenix, right? I did not know anybody in Phoenix. I did not want to know anybody in Phoenix. That was another requirement for me moving away. I wanted to go someplace that I had no family, no friends, no connections, no relations, none of that shit. I had to go and be completely by myself just so I can unwind, unpackage, and unblock whatever was blocked, like in my psyche, in my spirit, in my soul, right? Because I was really ready to move on, right? And figured that was going to be the best way for me to do it, like a trial by fire, or better yet, a trial by relocation, right? Because that way, if I had to rely solely on myself, it's like either you're going to sink, heifer, right, or you're going to swim, right? That's it. So it was Phoenix. I went out a couple of times just to kind of get a bead on things. I tried to get a transfer from my current or my then position, my then company, out to Phoenix because this was like a pretty sizable, they were like a nationwide transportation and logistics company. But at the time I was looking to go, they didn't have any openings there. But they were just like, just keep checking with us, right? And I'm like, okay. But I had all those years of bouncing around from job to job and from position to position, right? I had some killer skills, not just on paper, but in real life, right? So during this time where I'm taking this leave, now let me be clear about this. I have to preface with this. I said earlier that what seemed like unrelated events. I say that for a reason, because at no point in my brain, and I'm not lying or exaggerating, right? You can call me silly, feeble-minded. I'm just gonna be like, okay, well, in that instance, you got me there, because at no point did I ever think or make a connection between Phoenix, Arizona, and the University of Phoenix. At no point, right? What had happened was my bestie, when I was telling her, like, okay, I know where I'm moving. I'm going to Phoenix. She just blurted out one day. She's like, oh man, that's gonna be cool. She's like, well, hell, I wonder if you can now like take your classes online. I mean, at the school, right, on campus, because you'll be living in Phoenix, right? You go to like you go to the University of Phoenix. You'll be moving to Phoenix. I swear to you, until she said that, like weeks after this, right? Like weeks after me trying to figure this shit out, like where am I gonna live if I move out the state? It was her saying that where I actually snapped out of it and was like, oh my God, that's true. You're right. Like, damn it. And now I'm embarrassed, right? But this is my bestie, right? So I could be myself with my bestie. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I never thought about that. And she literally was just like, you stupid cow, like you stupid heifer. Like, what the hell you mean you didn't you didn't think about that? I'm like, that shit never crossed my mind. And the fact that I'm settling, or I'm moving, to the area, to the town, to the city, where my school is located. Like, right? But I think part of the reason why I never really made the connection was because, like I said, I had went on leave before making this decision, right? So in my mind, I really did not see myself going back. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I'm like, if that group model is how they're educating us, and at the time it was, I'm like, I do not want to continue on at the university. I just had no idea, right? But when she said that, I'm like, yeah, I guess that's true. But it didn't deter me, right? Phoenix was going to be it. And that was it, right? So it took me all of like 6 months, right? And during that time, I went on 2 leaves, right? I went on a leave for the first quarter, and that was like around, when did I go on leave? I think that was around like the spring, like the very early spring into the summer. And then I took a second leave from the summer into the fall, right? But by the end of the summer, yeah, so it was like not a full 6 months, but almost 6 months. By the end of the summer, I was out, right? So I didn't, like I said, it was not an easy thing. Like I said, I'd never lived any place else like that. And I was leaving everybody that I knew and loved. Family members were very, very, some were happy for me. Others were very unhappy for themselves. Let me put it that way. Angry with me as well. Like, what do you mean you're leaving? Now, mind you, I'm in my 30s, but I'm just like, whatever. So I go, right? Didn't know anybody. I picked up and I left and got there. So I did not end up in Phoenix proper, right? So Phoenix is in the valley, the Maricopa County, the Maricopa Valley, right? The Phoenix Valley. And so I didn't live in Phoenix proper. I stayed in, not AJ, Mesa, though. I stayed in Mesa, right, first. Had a little apartment there. Then I moved from Mesa to Tempe. But by the time I got to Tempe, I was settled, right? But I went, right? I got an apartment. I had already reached out to it, like because like I told you all in the previous video, right? I had gotten really good at finding a job, right? Like finding a job became a great skill set that I acquired. It was like a game or sport. It was like sport to me. So I'm like, okay, I know what to do to find a job, right? So I had already made because I went and visited a couple of times and went to like different staffing agencies, right? Because like when in doubt, go to a staffing agency, right? They'll let you know if you are employable or not. They'll let you know real quick. So I went to like about 6 or 7 when I was there, and then there were 2 that were just like, when are you coming? And I'm like, I don't know. I'll let you know. And they're like, just let us know as soon as you get in town. And those were the 2 that I went back to as soon as I got in town. I'm like, hey, I'm here. And they're like, great. So at that time, right, like I said, this was 20-something years ago. At that time, there was like a growing like call center, customer service market in the Southwest, right? Because, and especially in a place like Arizona, as far as the state is concerned, um, Arizona does not observe daylight savings time, right? So it's kind of like, it's almost like you're getting a twofer in Arizona, right? Because they don't observe daylight savings time, but the states around them and many other states do. So half of the year, right, it's like they're on what, mountain time, and then the other half of the year they're like on Pacific time. But in truth, it's not them. They don't observe um, daylight savings time, but the states around, California does, and Nevada does, and things like that. So it actually like is good for call center and customer service because, if it's like, for half of the year they're like, what, it seems like they're 3 hours behind if you're on the East Coast, right? And then for other half of the year they're like, what, 2 or 4, something like, I can't remember the math or how it rolls forward and backwards. But long story short, for call center and customer service work, it was awesome, right? Plus, Arizona, not a big union state. I don't know what's happening there now. I haven't really been there in years, but at that time, not a big union state, right? Which meant that wages were lower than anything I earned in Chicago. So it was very attractive, right? So there was a lot of call center work there, a lot of customer service work there, a lot of administrative assistant type work and things like that. And so as soon as I got, like I said, settled and had my little apartment, which was a great apartment, it was reasonable. Everything was like, it was like a all in one, right? Like all the utilities and everything was included in one price. Now at that time, and again, this was 20 something years ago, almost 30 years ago. Freaking, it was so affordable, right? Like compared to Chicago and the Chicagoland area, it was like night and day, right? So my money went a long way there, right? As opposed to in Chicago. So everything was just so agreeable with me, right? Plus just the beauty of the desert, right? Like I've never really been like a huge outdoorsy person, but like I could not, like there's no way I could deny how beautiful it was. Like the sunsets and the sunrises and yes, the heat, but one thing that I know, or that I came to learn about living in a place like the Southwest, is that air conditioning was built like in the DNA, in the foundation of the Southwest. I'm from the Midwest. I'm Chicagoland particularly. Central air and air conditioning is not built into our DNA at all. But when you go out there, it's everywhere, right? So when I tell people like, like, oh, you live there, how did it, what about that heat? How did it go? I'm like, you go from one air conditioned place to the next, right? It took like maybe about a good 2 years for my body just to really start to build up and be able to withstand and sustain the heat. But again, I was going from like my car, which had air conditioning, to the office, which had air conditioning, to the grocery store, to my apartment, right? Bottom line, it was beautiful, right? The mountains and just everything, right? And it was so amazing. It was like another world. And I was so enamored and just so like just completely like taken, right? Just it was wonderful. So I just wanted to be out and just take it all in, right? It was going to be like in my mind, again, this is me in my 30s maturing, right? Growing. Um why move to someplace totally different than what you know and just to stay inside or just stay in the house, or it's like it was so much, it's like a smorgasbord really of just things for every sense, right? Like my sight and smell and taste and everything, right? And so I took advantage of it. I partook in as many things as I could, and which was, again, like I said, that was real growth and real change for me, right? But I have to look at it and say, okay, well, you were already on that path, right? You found a way to come out of your comfort zone and figured out the best way for with you to pursue your education. So looking back, right? Yeah, right. But at the time, I couldn't see that. Like I said, I thought these were unrelated events or incidences or incidents until I realized that they were connected, right? Anyway, so yeah. I went to Arizona, loved every minute of it, and decided that it was the best decision, and that the next phase of my life really was going to play out there. And I figured this out. I knew it. So I was just really just like settling in. Like, okay, I'll be here for a minute, so let me settle in. All right. All right. So on that note, I'm going to end this part of the video, right, or the story. So I'm going to give myself a few moments. I got a couple of things I need to run around and do, but then I will pick up again with part 5, right? So 4, part 5. All right. And then that's it. I'll be done with the recording, and I'll give myself a bit of a break before I jump in with the next installment. Okay. Anyway, if you made it to the end, I appreciate it. I hope this shortened format is agreeable, to you. So I won't be holding you hostage with my conversation. I hate when I do that, but I'm a talker. I really am. And I've said this. This is me justifying this shit, right? Let's say you do want to go back to school. Doesn't matter what type of school, type of program. Let's say you want to go back. One of the things you're going to have to get adjusted to, if you have not already, right, or if it's something that's just not you, is having someone hold you hostage with their conversation, right? I don't care what type of classroom you're sitting in, a trade school, a community college. It does not flipping matter. It doesn't fucking matter, right? Bottom line is that if somebody's teaching the class, and they're going to have to hold your attention, and you are going to have to give them the attention because they're teaching, right? And you're learning. So I said to myself, like, okay, well, these don't need to be short videos. I don't need to fit into that short video YouTube format of, like not YouTube shorts, or, like short, long form videos, right? It's like, nah, my shit needs to be at least 30 minutes, at least, right? Because, you can sit in a class once a week and somebody has to lecture to you in that class 2.5 hours, right? At least, right? So it's kind of like, get ready. You're serious about this shit, get ready. You should be able to build it up, right? Build up your system, like your immune system to it, right? 30 minutes. Oh yeah, I can watch her video for 30 minutes, no problem. So I'm going to try to keep them around 30 minutes. They may go a little bit longer, but I'm going to try to keep them around 30 minutes moving forward. All right. Anyway, having said that, thank you for watching. All right. Do not forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can know when other videos are coming. If you have any comments, reach out to me. My email address is in the description. Connect at adultlearnerlounge.com, right? Or hit me up in the comments section. All right. You all take care, and don't forget, we are lifelong learners. We never stop learning. All right. Bye.